here I am on the 23rd of June. I'm at Wisley where we have our bonsai collection, and for those of you who have not seen the video before, this is us here. If we look at it, it's called the Herons Bonsai Walk, and we've been sponsoring the Wisley bonsai collection. These are our trees since 1997, and this is the third location of our bonsai display in the Wisley Gardens. So due to the coronavirus, I'm ashamed to say that I have not been here since the end of January, because the virus started in, I would say, around February, and people were getting a bit afraid to come. And I usually come once a month, so I would have come here at the end of Feb or early March, so it's paid to that. So let me see what has happened in the last 5 or 6 months, because I haven't seen to the trees for all that time. And I'm very pleased to say that at a quick glance, they all look very well. These trees are looked after by Wisley. Looked after meaning they do the watering. So they water it twice a day, and we've had very high temperatures. So they've done a good job, but I don't think they've done much trimming. So I'm here mainly to do trimming. So some of the shapes have gone a bit awry, so I've got to do the trimming. So let's have a quick walk to see the condition of the trees. They all look pretty decent. So all it needs is just a tiny bit of a trim, and it should be okay again. I must say they look very well. Yeah, they look extremely good. As we say, it's not rocket science. Looking after trees is not that difficult. All you have to do is make sure they're well watered, and they should be okay. The shapes have gone a little bit. Oh, while I'm passing, look at this mulberry tree. Look at this mulberry tree. Look at the mulberries on it. If you come close, you can see the fruit, laden with fruit. That's some mulberry, isn't it? Some size of mulberry tree. Beautiful. Absolutely in its splendor. Laden with fruit. Still in bloom, needs a bit of deadheading. So at a quick glance, everything seemed fine. So it's just pruning. So we will show you how we go about pruning some of them. I think they've been feeding it well, and look at the ground cover. I planted these junipers when I made this garden in 2012, which is 8 years ago, and this is a ground cover juniper called the Juniper Cucumbers. I think it is Cucumbers, yes, Juniper Cucumbers, and we plant this to grow in place of moss, so it looks very much like moss. So this works well. So we will start with pruning them. This is the big Chinese elm. Look at the size of this tree. This is some Chinese elm, isn't it? Absolutely massive. And again, it's in reasonable condition. I think the staff have done some pruning. I don't think I will do much. You see, these little bits are a bit long. Apart from that, I don't think it needs much. Look at that for a pad. Massive. No, I think that's pretty good. So I don't think I'll touch this tree. This tree is fine. I think they've been doing the odd bit. So things like that I will prune. All these long shoots I will do. I have a feeling the staff have been looking after it and taking the initiative to prune as well. So top marks to them. With most bonsais, once the shape has been formed, all you have to do is maintain the shape. make sure that the pads don't merge into each other. So the spacing between the pads should be maintained. So this one is okay. Now this larch, I think the top of that has died because the tree is too tall. We find it hard to pump water all the way to the top. But I'm not sure whether I'll take it off. I might keep it for making driftwood because this is an old tree. So I won't rush to hack it off. So with this larch, all these long shoots have grown, I think, maybe over the last 4 or 5 months. And I'm going to prune it back so that the pads become visible. You see all these long shoots like that? They spoil the shape of the bonsai. So if you leave a larch unkempt, this is what happens. This group is very, very old, by the way. I made this in the mid-70s and it's been used at Wisley since we started the exhibition in 1997. So this group, I would say, is more than, if I say I made it in 1974, that makes it a very, very old group. And as you can see, some of these bigger trees, they're suffering from old age, nothing more. Sometimes trees do that. You can't expect a tree to live or be in pristine condition always, but I will decide what to do with the top. So that's been brought back. So this is a nice little tree. They're really old trees. You see how thick the stems are on this? Have a look at this. It's so thick. They're little trees, but so thick there. And then this one, these long shoots here, these I have to trim like this. It just doesn't take time. But I don't do, I mean, some people will look at a shoot like this and contemplate half a minute before they cut it. Okay, if you enjoy doing it that way, it's your privilege. But I can't stand, contemplating on little shoot before I prune. I will just prune it where I feel it needs to be pruned. Larches, when they're grown as bonsai, they get these very small needles, but if you grow it vigorously, unchecked, they get very coarse needles. But these fine needles come from keeping it pot bound. So that is that one done. That shoot is going up that way. Like that. The odd branch I will probably leave to make driftwood, or I could take it off. No, it doesn't spoil it. This dead wood here is okay. We've always supported the Wisley for a long, long time. So 1997 makes it 1997 is 23 years, isn't it? And this collection gives people a lot of pleasure. Now let me look at the top here, because the top has died. I was quite to get new leader there. See, that top died there. I may just tidy a little bit so that doesn't look so unkempt. So in nature you do get trees that lose the tops either from a storm or just from old age. So I don't think this is unnatural. It is quite normal for trees to behave in this manner. I might change it next winter, but for the time being, I think it looks okay for now. I'm not too worried. I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it like that. The trouble with tall trees is that the water has to be pumped by the roots from the base here to the top, which is a long way to travel, and that's why the top suffers. If it was a short tree, you won't have that same problem. But apart from this little, I wouldn't say it's a defect, it can add to the character of the tree. I would keep it like that. So, that is that one done. Now let's look at this one. Now this tree, if we look at it from this side, I think the top has become a bit too wide, so I'm going to shorten it just a little bit. Now some of you must be wondering why the trees are so large. Now if you know me by now, you will realize that I love large bonsai, but that's not quite the point. I deliberately have large trees at Wisley because this is a public display. If I were have to have little bonsai 5-6 inches high or even 12 inches high in a big space like that, it wouldn't look right, would it? So that's why we have large trees for display in a public place. And because this is not really a bonsai museum, if I were to have small trees, you never know, there are a lot of dishonest people around. The chances of small trees being stolen is quite high. So for that reason also, we try not to have small trees on display, however nice they look. So I'm tightening the top to make it more of a conical shape. Don't forget, this tree hasn't been trimmed since it came into leaf in March, because I last visited back in February, or was it the end of January? So it's badly in need of a trim. I should have brought my ladder with me, but I don't have a ladder. Oh. This sort of pruning is quite safe to do in the summer like this. Now we are right in the middle of summer. It's going to be 31 degrees later this week. So it's not dangerous, it's quite acceptable and quite safe. There are 1 or 2 dead branches. Maples do lose branches, so don't get obsessed with it. They rejuvenate very easily. So that dead branch I'm going to take out. It's springing up anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I'm going to seal that in a minute. So there are 1 or 2 dead branches here. shape is fine. There's just a tiny touch to the top. I've brought the shape back to the way I want it. So this tree is all right. And by the way, these trees have got beautiful, beautiful autumn color. While I'm here, I better put some sealant. When I prune my maples, I always use sealant. Oh. And this tree just being kept in a pot, look at the beautiful base and the exposed root. That really gives it a feeling of age. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is an Audrey Scots pine, and this one has been in this pot for the last, I would say, maybe 20 years. And because it's been in a pot, look at the roots that have formed. Look at it, massive roots. And that's just from being kept in a pot. I always feel that if you keep the trees fed well, you don't need to repot too often. And what I'm doing here, although I didn't get a chance to deal with the candles, I'm just tipping it. Simply tipping it will force the branches to bud further back. And that would keep it within bounds. Always keeping a little bit of green. This is by no means our best literati. We've got nicer trees than this, but it's an unusual tree. And also gives people some ideas to how easy it is to create bonsai from so-called native material. Scots pine is a native tree, very easy to get, very easy to train. I'm taking quite a few branches off. The Scots pine have this habit of producing very long branches, so it's hard to get them to bud back. Amazing what a lot of tiny dead twigs there are, and they can come off. As we say, if you look for faults, you're always bound to find the faults. Like that, this branch here is hiding the trunk, so I'm going to take it off, doing nothing. We need to show that beautiful trunk line. Now if you look at this beech tree, if we stand back you can see it's lost the shape a bit. It's not my style. I think I need to make it more of a dome shape. I won't touch the base, I'm only going to touch the top. I can see straight away that this year's growth, which is now about 4 to 5 inches long, has not been touched, so it's high time I did it. If you see how I'm going to gradually change it slightly. So if you come close here, I'll show you. It's this growth. See all this from here to there. about 5 or 6 inches. This is all grown since the spring. And if you didn't deal with it, can you imagine if you add 5 or 6 inches each year, in 2 years it'll be another 12 inches wide. So the tree will be completely out of shape. So this is where you have to constantly hit back and keep it within bounds. Okay, now I just show you the English beech. Now this is Japanese beech. The Japanese beech is Fagus crenata, or the white bark beech, because the stem of the trunk is very white, and it's got slightly different leaves. The leaves, if I can just show you the difference with leaves, I'll cut a leaf from here and I'll go there and show you the English beech. You see how different the leaves are. These are long leaves, whereas the English beech has got rounded leaves. So that's the difference. So the difference in the two types of leaves. Again, not much needs doing to this, it's in fairly good condition. So with all the deciduous trees, all we ever do is take the ends off to increase the ramification. And I always like to emphasize that these trees don't get any protection. So they've been here exposed to the elements for 12 months of the year, right through the winter. It is exposed here and they survive and do very well. Let's now move to this one. I think they have done some trimming. It's in quite good condition. I won't touch that. Now this is the famous Blaw's juniper. If you look, Blaw's, and it was made from an Audrey nursery tree back in 1984. And the history of this tree is shown in my book, Bonsai Masterclass, how this tree was created. And in those days, I was very fond of plaiting 2 branches. You can have a close look. See, we took 2 branches and twined them around to get a denser pad. But this tree has become largely overgrown. When you think that it was only finger thick back in 1984, look at it now. It's grown over the years. I'm still very fond of this tree. I don't like to change the character of this tree. This is how it's evolved. I think to change the character would somehow be wrong. I was saying, this tree has got such a beautiful trunk. Somehow this trunk is being hidden. So I'm going to reveal the trunk a little more by cutting one of the limbs of the pad off, because this little pad here is blocking the view. See, now you can see the trunk, you see? So I thought I'd just pan the camera around to show you some sights of Wisley. Those of you who live abroad may not know of Wisley. Wisley is the Royal Horticultural Society's gardens in Wisley, which is 30 miles south of London in the county of Surrey. It's a 200-acre site, but not all 200 acres is used. The rest of the garden is very nice. Wisley was bequeathed by, I think, some rich family maybe about 100 years ago, 90 or 100 years ago, and it has developed by the RHS charity into a lovely garden which is frequented by people not just in the south of England, but people from all over the UK, and of course foreign visitors as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful garden. I'm standing on top of the rockery. You can see the people walking up the rockery. You've got a huge glass house there, which was opened by Her Majesty the Queen in 2007, and everything is built up and funded by donations. Everything is donated. So even our trees here already are donated, so they don't have to spend a lot of money. And this is what the charitable organizations in the UK are all about. It puts my vegetables to shame. Look at them, growing so well. Now this trident root of a rock is in very good condition, but somehow it's not the style that I usually like. I usually like my trees more of a conical shape. It's too heavy at the top, so I'm going to, I'll show you in front of your very eyes the sort of shape I like to do. Everyone has their own particular style, and it's very subtle. If you do a before and after shot, you will see what I mean. If you go back to where we started, you'll see that there should be a difference. We're standing back and go to even two more. So hopefully that should have altered the appearance slightly. If you go to a before and after, you'll notice that it is more domed like this. And that's the way I like my tridents. If we go to another trident, I will also show you, because these have not been trimmed for about 5 or 6 months. Now this is okay, but I would still like to give it more of a domed shape. Just plucking the leaves so that I let more light into the branches. So when a tree is very dense, we just pluck the leaves. We showed you on that tree, the chicken butter tree is the same sort of thing. So it does no harm to the tree. So although I've not been to Wisley for about 5 months, the trees are in very good condition, and we've not had to do very much except just trim the ends of some of the trees, mainly the maples. The conifers seem okay, and I can't get over how beautiful this mulberry tree is. And I got my friend Shomu, an IIT alumnus from my old college, and he is wanting to learn bonsai just as a form of relaxation. Now this is a mulberry that we've had for about maybe 6 or 7 years, imported from Spain, and it was largely a stump. It's grown all the branches almost from scratch, and I've trained it in this style, and the trunk is absolutely massive. Look at it, absolutely massive. I would say it's more than 12 inches at the base, more than 12 inches. And look at the fruit on this. It's lovely when they have fruit. They start off red and then they turn black. I think if we grew this as a big tree, this would have larger fruit. So they're very nice, sweet, edible. I'm just going to take a bite. Look at this luscious fruit. Most of the mulberries on the nursery are in different stages of training. I'm either trying to develop a trunk thicker or to grow new branches. So I don't have many that are as nice as this tree. This is a particularly nice tree. So that's a mulberry for you. This video is usually a reminder of what my next job should be when I visit Wisley on the next occasion, which hopefully will be in a month or 5 weeks, 6 weeks time. This Deshojo is not at its best. It's hard to find a nice large Dishojo. This has always been here. I'll leave it here. Maybe next year, next spring, I may change it. This root over rock juniper could do with a bit of a rest in my greenhouse to get more foliage. This could possibly change. This could also be changed. This mountain maple, the shape is not brilliant. This only requires deadheading. I'll tell the Wisley staff to do it. They like this tree because it's a really old tree and the hollow trunk is a nice feature, so this will remain at Wisley. The crab apple is not too bad, although the leaves could be a bit more healthy, but I'll leave this again here. The rigida seems okay, needs just tidying up. There's a lot of brown needles which need to be cleaned. This white beech is okay. Trident maples always do well here, that's okay. My Blow's juniper is also fine. This is a pine on its own roots, that's why it has this yellow cast. But that's the natural color of the tree. Now, ginkgos are always hard to grow, but this one has been at Wisley since 1997 and it's still going strong. Absolutely beautiful tree. I can't grow ginkgos as strong as this on the nursery. This Bouvernense is also fine. I won't touch that. That elm is okay. This is the Pinus austriaca, Austrian black pine. That doesn't need to be taken back. This doesn't need taking back. That is fine as well.
That's Kylie, you watch him on TV all the time, right?
Oh, you watch it?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay, how nice. YouTube friend. Okay.
The ones you did the bonsai.
So you're learning bonsai on the YouTube. Good.
Oh, I had a look.
How nice. You'll appear on YouTube. This is going to be on YouTube. Say hello.
Hello. They're lovely. It's amazing how you do
Okay,
it.
good. So this trident also is in good condition. This doesn't need to go back.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
How do you get it to grow over the rock?
That takes time.
Yeah.
When they're young, the roots are draped over the rock and then they're buried in the ground for about 10 or 20 years, then dug up again, and then the branches and superstructure is trained. So usually root over rock takes a long time to create.
Oh, so you let it grow?
Yeah, the roots are tied, draped on the rock and tied together, and then the whole thing from here downwards is buried in the ground.
Okay.
And when the roots get thick enough, maybe after 5 or 6, 10 years even,
okay, and then you
then it's
take-
taken up and then we train the tree.
That's amazing, isn't it? Beautiful.
Root over rock takes time to do.
Yeah. Have to be very patient to do this.
Yes.
Mommy, look at this one. It's got like a hollow trunk.
Yeah, that's old age. It's genuine, really old.
It's still growing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like this one.
Yeah, the group.
I can put my Lego friends down through and they can climb the tree.
It's lovely, isn't it? Lovely parts.
Isn't that the same one? Just it's not over the rock.
Yeah, it looks like the same leaves. It's like,
Trident maple, absolutely right. The same tree.
it looks a bit like ivy leaves, doesn't it?
Yes, that's why I called trident. 3-cornered leaf.
Uh-huh.
Trident. This is the English beech. This is the tree that I dug from my hedge. The mulberry that can stay here. This has been at Wisley for the last 3 years. Literati pine is okay. This maple got very good shape, nothing wrong with this. This is probably the best mountain maple I've got here. The large forest, I'm not sure what to do with the top. I'll take a decision. I may gin the top, but otherwise the rest of the tree is healthy. Another beautiful trident with beautiful nebari. These are all extremely valuable trees. And this massive, massive Chinese elm. It is absolutely massive.
Sometimes, if you're trying to go giant one, you limit
There we go.